All computer programs, regardless of the programming language used to create them, are ultimately converted into machine code. Machine code is composed of binary digits or bits where each bit holds a value of either 1 or 0. That's why machine code is also known as binary code. In this video, I will explain why a computer program or code written in a high-level language must be converted into machine code before it can be executed. To help clarify the concept, I will focus only on the essential details and recommend watching until the end for a complete understanding. My name is Mumajid. Before we get into the main reason, we need to first understand some fundamental terms and concepts. So let's start with what exactly is a computer program. The main processing unit responsible for the execution of all operations inside a computer is the microprocessor or central processing unit, CPU. But the microprocessor is an integrated circuit. It doesn't understand human language or any other high-level programming language. It only understands electrical signals in the form of voltage levels, either high or low. To control its functionality, a user would technically need to apply these voltage levels directly on its pins as instructions. However, since this isn't practical, that's why a combination of computer program and hardware electronic circuits are used to achieve this. The computer programs allow users to write instructions in a readable form, while the circuits translate these instructions into voltage levels the microprocessor can understand. The microprocessor is connected with various other hardware components through different types of buses, circuits, decoders, and controllers to form a complete computer system. A computer program is a well-defined set of instructions written in a specific programming language for a microprocessor to perform a task step by step. These tasks could be anything from adding numbers, displaying an image, or even controlling hardware. So every instruction must ultimately be converted into a sequence of voltages that the microprocessor can interpret. Why a processor needs instructions in the form of voltages? To understand this better, let's define the processor from a hardware point of view. A microprocessor is a highly integrated circuit built with billions of transistors. A transistor acts like a switch. When it's on, current flows. When it's off, it doesn't. There are different types of transistors, but in digital circuits, we mostly use MOSFET type transistors. MOSFETs are further divided into two types, PMOS and NMOS. Each transistor has three terminals. Gate controls the switch. Source and drain are entry and exit point for current. PMOSFET stands for positive type metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. PMOS is turned off when gate voltage with respect to source is not below a certain threshold voltage. When turned off, the source and drain are disconnected. Turns on when gate voltage with respect to source goes below a certain threshold. When turned on, the source is connected to drain and conventional current flows from source to drain. NMOS turns on when gate voltage with respect to source is high above a certain threshold. Turns off otherwise. When turned on, the source is connected to drain and conventional current flows from drain to source. When turned off, the source and drain are disconnected. For operation of MOSFET, all the terminals must be connected with proper voltage levels. In simple words, the PMOS and NMOS are connected in digital circuits in such configurations and voltage levels are applied on source and drain terminals in such a way that when a high voltage is applied at gate of PMOS, then it is turned off, and when low voltage is applied at the gate of NMOS, then it is turned off. The case is opposite. When a low voltage is applied at the gate of PMOS, then it is turned on, and when a high voltage is applied at the gate of NMOS, then it is turned on. When PMOS is turned on, then source is connected with drain and conventional current flows from source to drain. For NMOS, when the transistor is on, source and drain are connected and conventional current flows from drain to source. The high and low voltage levels in digital circuits are represented in binary by the values 1 and 0. So here we have shown that 0 is representing a low voltage and 1 is representing a high voltage. So these values are logic high and low. Transistors are connected together in specific patterns to form logic gates. The simplest building blocks of digital logic gates are electronic circuits that perform logical operations on one or more binary inputs to produce a binary output signal. In this circuit, the PMOS and NMOS are connected together to form a NOT logic gate. This configuration of transistors is called complementary MOS or CMOS. NOT gate inverts the input, 0 becomes 1 and 1 becomes 0. Here VDD shows the positive power supply of the circuit and VSS shows the negative power supply or ground of the circuit. So VDD is a high voltage level and VSS is a 0 volt voltage level. The transistors are connected in such configuration that the source of this PMOS transistor is connected with the positive power supply and drain is connected to the drain of NMOS and the source of NMOS is connected with the ground of the circuit. The input is applied at the gate of both these transistors and a single input line is connected to both the gate terminals of the transistors. When 0 volt is applied at the input, then 0 volt appears at the gate terminal of PMOS. The source terminal of PMOS is connected to a high voltage level and the voltage from gate to source or voltage at gate with respect to source is low. So the PMOS transistor will be turned on and source will be connected to drain. Now when 0 volt appears at the gate of NMOS and if VSS is also 0 volt, then the gate to source voltage of this NMOS transistor is not above a certain threshold. The difference is 0 between gate and source. So the MOSFET will be turned off and source will be disconnected from drain and there is no current flow. So the only path that is available for current flow is from source to drain. So this path is connected and VDD will appear at the output due to this available path. Now when a plus 5 volt signal is applied, then plus 5 volt is at the gate of PMOS, source of PMOS is connected with also a, let's say, plus 5 volt high signal, that is the positive power supply of the circuit. Then the difference between gate and source voltage is 0 and the MOSFET will be turned off because the gate to source voltage is not below a certain threshold. And when plus 5 volt is applied at the gate of NMOS transistor, when VSS is 0 volt, then the NMOS transistor will be turned on because the VGS signal is above a certain threshold, due to which a path will be established between drain and source terminals and VSS will appear at the output as a result. So when the input is plus 5 volt or high voltage, then the output is VSS or low voltage. And when the input is low, then the output is high. So high input, output low, low input, output is high. So in this case, this circuit is acting as the logic NOT gate. In the symbol, we only show the input and outputs without showing any power supply. And the values are also shown as logic values or binary values instead of voltage levels. In physical circuits that are used to implement this functionality, actual voltage levels are applied, while these voltage levels are represented as logic 1 and 0 or binary 1 and binary 0 with logic gate symbols. These transistors can also be connected in a different configuration to implement the NAND logic gate operation. Now here two PMOS transistors are connected and here two NMOS transistors are connected in such a way that the source of both the PMOS transistors are connected with the power supply or high voltage of the circuit and the drain of both the PMOS are connected to the drain of one NMOS. The source of that NMOS is connected with the drain of the lower NMOS, and the source of this last NMOS is connected with the ground of the circuit. Now, in this circuit, there are two inputs, A and B. If A is 0 volt and if B is also 0 volt, then due to this 0 volt, the gate voltages of both the PMOS transistors are low and the sources of both the PMOS are connected with high. So in this case, due to this low VGS, both the transistors will be turned on because VGS is below a certain threshold voltage. VGS stands for VG minus VS, the difference between gate and source voltage. And for this NMOS transistor, due to this 0 volt appearing at the gate of both NMOS, the transistors will be turned off. So the only available path is from source to drain due to the connection of the upper PMOS transistors. VDD will appear at the output when both the inputs are low. Now let's try to change the inputs. Now input A is 0 volt and input B is plus 5 volt. Now at the gate of one PMOS transistor a 0 volt appears, at the gate of the next one plus 5 volt. For one NMOS 0 volt and for the next NMOS plus 5 volt. PMOS transistors with 0 volt signal will be turned on and the NMOS transistors with 0 volt will be turned off, and opposite is true for the NMOS and PMOS transistors with plus 5 volt signal. Now here the only connected path is again from this source to this drain. Remaining all paths are open or disconnected. So again VDD will appear at the output. Now let's change the input A to plus 5 volt and B to 0 volt. Due to this configuration, again this one PMOS will be turned on, this one will be turned off, this NMOS will be turned on, this will be turned off, and again the available path for current flow is from source to drain due to this connected path, and VDD will appear at the output again. The last combination of inputs is A is plus 5 volt, B is also plus 5 volt. So due to this configuration, both the above PMOS transistors will be turned off and both the below NMOS transistors will be turned on. The only connected path is from drain to source, and due to this connected path, VSS will appear at the output. Now this circuit implements the functionality of a NAND gate circuit, and this is the symbol of NAND gate. I have shown here inputs A, B, and this is the output. So this complete circuit is the implementation of this NAND gate. And if the inputs and outputs are represented as logic levels or binary values, then when both the inputs are 0, output is 1. When A is 0, B is 1, output is 1. When A is 1, B is 0, output is 1. And when both the inputs are high, then the output is 0. This is the functionality of NAND gate. NAND gate is considered a universal logic gate, and the combination of NAND gates can be used to implement any Boolean function. For example, two NAND gates can be connected in such a way that the output of one gate is again inverted. This NAND gate is now functioning or behaving like an inverter or logic NOT because both the inputs have been connected together. The combined circuit is called an AND gate. This is the truth table of an AND gate, and the output is 1 only when both the inputs are 1. When any of the input is 0, then the output is 0, which is opposite for a NAND gate. The AND gates and NOT gates can be combined together to form a circuit that is called binary decoder. Binary decoders have various applications in digital systems and microprocessors, including memory address decoding, instruction decoding, and many more. A binary decoder is a digital circuit used to convert binary coded inputs into a unique set of outputs. A binary decoder uses n input lines and generates 2n unique outputs. Each binary input combination maps to exactly one output being active. For example, in this case there are n inputs and the outputs are 2 raised to power n. If the inputs of a binary decoder are 2, then the output should be 4. Now let's say the inputs are A and B and the outputs are Y0, Y1, Y2, Y3. Then this truth table shows the function of this binary decoder. When both the inputs A and B are 0, 0, then the output Y0 is 1 and the remaining all outputs are 0. So only one line is active, that is Y0. When the inputs are 0, 1, then the active line is Y1 and it is 1 and the remaining lines are all 0. When the inputs are 1, 0, then the active line is Y2 and the remaining lines are all 0. And when the inputs are 1, 1, only active line is Y3 and the remaining is 0. So for a decoder, depending upon the combination of inputs, the output sequence is determined and only one line has logic 1 output and the remaining are all zeros depending upon the input combination. This functionality of the decoder can be used to select memory locations or memory chips, can also be used in instruction decoding to enable a function block that is required by the operation of the instruction. This is a simple binary decoder. Similarly, more binary decoders can also be implemented by combination of logic gates, for example 3x8 binary decoder, 4x16, 8x256, and more complex decoders can also be implemented by using or cascading simple binary decoders. Multiple logic gates can be combined further to build complex circuits like encoders, adders, multiplier, arithmetic and logical unit, control unit, registers. These components work together to execute complex instructions. Since every digital operation in a microprocessor, from simple arithmetic to decision making, operates on high and low voltage levels and therefore accepts instructions and data in binary, and is executed by circuits formed from interconnected transistors. In other words, transistors are the atoms of digital electronics. Now let's define a microprocessor from a functional point of view. The functional definition of a microprocessor is an integrated circuit used to fetch, decode, and execute instructions. The instruction is fetched from memory by the microprocessor, is decoded by the microprocessor, and is executed by the microprocessor. A microprocessor can only execute a specific set of instructions designed by its manufacturer and provided in a document called instruction set. An instruction set is a list of all the instructions that can be executed by a microprocessor. Each instruction has a binary code which is called machine code, which is a combination of well-defined set of ones and zeros. A computer program written in any programming language other than machine language must be converted into machine code or machine language code before its execution. An instruction is made up of opcode and operands. Opcode stands for operation code, that is what to do, for example, add, subtract, load. Operands are the data or the address of the data stored in memory. The high-level language program instructions are converted into machine code by a software called compiler. Let's say your program wants to add two numbers and 2 plus 3 is an instruction in a high-level language program. The operation is addition and the operands are constant numbers 2 and 3. The binary representation of 2 decimal is 00000010 binary. And let's assume that a specific microprocessor has an opcode 00000001 for add operation and 00000011 is the binary equivalent value of 3. Then the machine code in binary for the given instruction is 00000001, 00000010, 00000011. Here the size of operands and opcode are 8-bit binary digits or 8 bits each, and opcode comes before operands, but it may vary in different instruction formats and CPUs. These machine code bits are finally converted into an executable file and is stored in hard disk. When the program is executed, then the machine code is loaded into RAM by operating system. At a higher level of understanding, we say the machine code from RAM is fetched by the microprocessor, decoded and executed by the control unit and ALU inside the microprocessor. But for low-level understanding, what actually happens is the machine code bits in executable file are converted into a physical quantity by hardware circuits to be stored in hard disk. From there, the code is moved into RAM and the bits are stored in the form of charge or voltage levels. Finally, the bits in the form of high and low voltages flow to microprocessor input pins. Inside the processor, the bits in the form of voltages related to opcode or operation code of instruction activates the decoder. Here for 8-bit opcode, I have used 8 into 256 decoder, a decoder with 8 inputs and 256 outputs. It means the decoder accepts 8 input and has 256 outputs. Depending upon the opcode, the output of the decoder is activated to select the required functional block. For example, adder is the functional block in this case. Adder again accepts two 8-bit numbers at its inputs, that are numbers 2 and 3. The numbers are fed to adder in the form of their equivalent binary digits or bits. The result at output of adder is also 8-bit. The building blocks of all these circuits are transistors. The values and results are all in the form of voltages. The result may further be stored in memory or register depending upon the specific instruction. Now, if the instruction is further changed to data type space variable equals to 2 plus 3, then upon execution 2 and 3 will be added and the result will be stored in destination, that is a variable VAR stored in RAM memory. Let's say the opcode for the instruction is 00000010 and the address of VAR in memory is 33 decimal. Then in this case, the machine code will also include the binary representation for address of variable VAR in memory, and here the rightmost 8 bits of machine code represents 33 decimal in binary. The opcode for this instruction is also changed and is written on the leftmost side. I have assumed that the opcode for a specific microprocessor for this type of instruction is 00000010. In this case, according to the opcode, the decoder might activate a functional block to add values and to store result in memory. For storage in memory, the address of variable is fed to a decoder which selects the memory location for result storage. The write operation for memory is performed and result is written in memory location with address 33 decimal. For simplicity, here I have not used any data type for variable and assumed that the address and size of VAR are both 8-bit each. Here I have also skipped the details related to memory address decoding, address control and data buses, and have tried to make it simple for understanding related to topic of discussion only. The details are not tied to any specific microprocessor, as each one features its own distinct architecture, functional blocks, and instruction formats. Now let's see how a single bit 1 or 0 is stored at hardware level. A bit represented by value 1 or 0 is only a number in software, but at hardware level it must be represented or stored in the form of some physical quantity. At transistor level, a voltage level high or low represents a single bit. In hard disk, a bit 0 is stored as magnetic field in one direction and bit 1 is stored as magnetic field in the opposite direction. In SSD, bit 0 is stored as no trapped charge and bit 1 is stored as trapped charge. In DRAM, bit 0 is stored as no charge on capacitor and bit 1 is stored as charge stored on capacitor. In SRAM, bit 0 is stored as transistor flip-flop in low state and bit 1 is stored as transistor flip-flop in high state. In older ROM, bit 0 is stored as fuse intact or no charge and bit 1 is stored as fuse blown or charge trapped. In flash ROM, bit 0 is stored as no trapped charge and bit 1 is stored as trapped charge. On buses or wires, bit 0 appears as a low voltage signal and bit 1 appears as a high voltage signal. So finally, for a layered understanding at low level without considering the high level details related to operating systems, instruction execution cycle, units and registers of CPUs, the overall program flow can be presented as: the high level language computer program is converted into machine code consisting of ones and zeros. Ones and zeros are converted into high and low voltage levels through hardware circuits. These voltages appear on pins of microprocessor and control network of transistors inside the microprocessor. Transistors form digital circuits to carry out or execute the required operation. The result of the operation may appear on microprocessor pins in the form of voltages. From there, the voltages are again converted into required signal for storage or used by the program to display it on screen. So your program is literally activating digital circuits inside a chip. Modern microprocessors use new technology of highly advanced transistors to achieve smaller size. A small size transistor will enable a microprocessor to contain a huge number of transistors in a small chip. Higher speed, high switching speed of turning on and off of transistors will enable the microprocessor to perform operations at a faster rate, thus faster execution time. Lower power usage. Low power usage will result in increased battery time and low power dissipation with less overheating, critical for battery powered devices like smartphones and laptops. To achieve all this, the two new transistor designs used by the processor manufacturers are FinFET and RibbonFET. RibbonFET is a new design developed by Intel, while FinFET was developed earlier by some researchers of a university. Now let's look at the transistor technology used in the latest processors. But first, let me explain the term process node or node. Nodes or process nodes refer to the manufacturing technology level used to make semiconductor chips. It is often described by a number like 18A, N5, N4, which historically related to the size of features on the chip in nanometers. A smaller node means transistors are packed more densely, improving performance and reducing power consumption. Intel uses its 18A process node featuring RibbonFET transistors. This gives better control over current and reduced leakage. Intel manufactures its own chips through Intel Foundry. AMD uses N5 and N4 nodes from Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, one of the most advanced chip manufacturer. FinFET transistors are used, a design that helps reduce power leakage and increase efficiency. NVIDIA also partners with TSMC and uses the N4 node with FinFET transistors. Apple is at the forefront with N2 node technology from TSMC using gate-all-around transistors for maximum efficiency and performance. So to summarize, most companies rely on TSMC's advanced manufacturing, while Intel is pushing forward with its own transistor innovations. The race for smaller process nodes is all about making processors faster, smaller, and more energy efficient, resulting in the faster execution of a computer program. The competition between chip designers and manufacturers is fierce, and that's good news for technology users like us because it means faster, smarter, and more power-efficient devices year after year. Thanks for watching this video. If this explanation helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye, and see you in the next video.